There's the camera.
This camera.
Hey!
She don't exist to me.
Welcome to I Like You. We're gonna do an interview with Beatrice Palmer.
Hi.
Hey, Beatrice.
Hi, Aubrey.
Tell us
Hi,
a little
Nina.
bit about yourself. What are your pronouns? How do you identify? What's your life like?
My name is Beatrice Bernadette Palmer. I am 29 years old. We just done kicked Return of Saturn. She's over. She don't live here no more. And my pronouns are she, her, they, them.
What are your pronouns?
What are your pronouns? Sorry. Hey.
I think it's they, them. I think that's what I
Zer.
got. Zer. Yeah.
Zer.
Zer. Okay.
They and Zer. I identify as queer, trans femme. I'm coming to terms with the fact that yes, I am in the trans rainbow.
Which color are you?
But I like the pink on there. It's a nice, pretty pink, and I like that light blue. That little white stripe in the middle is cute. Do we have Tron's titties? Right there.
Trans titties.
Tron's titties. She's been taking her
Yeah, in
own.
your head. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we begin? Like letting the strangers viewing know about you?
I'm a musician. I'm a drag entertainer. I like to do lots of stuff. I like to take photos. I'm a music producer. I can say that now. I've produced some beats.
Oh, for yourself or for others?
For me, I'm working on producing them for other people, but right now I'm being selfish. I'm known for doing a drag show called The Glitter Bomb Show, which has ran for 3 years now. I do that with my husband, Hayden Palmer. Yes, your girl is married. She hooked one.
Yes, Hayden is amazing.
He's pretty friggin' great.
So, jumping into a real gay question.
Oh, right in.
Mm-hmm.
As queer people, we know that we come out all the damn time.
Every day.
But do you recall your first experience of coming out to yourself and coming out to another person?
It's really felt like two separate coming out. I had the coming out as gay. My first realization that it was gay is there was this movie called In and Out with... Is it Kevin Spacey? No. It's Kevin Kline. Thank God. It was a gay movie from the 90s, and I remember seeing that and being like, oh, there it is. And another part of it was there was this show called Oz on TV.
Or the prison show?
Yeah, the prison show, and it was like, that was the only place where you saw like full frontal male nudity and gay sex on television. So I remember thinking it was a Wizard of Oz show, and I stayed up late to watch it, like, because I saw it said Oz. And then just seeing like it was about like grown men having like rough sex with each other. I was like, oh.
Where's the wizard? Don't look behind the curtain.
How is this like an even gayer reference in the Wizard of Oz?
When is Dorothy coming?
Oh, Dorothy's coming. But I realized I was gay after seeing that. I had always preferred being around girls. I didn't really like boy stuff. And that was shorthand for gay back then. So it was like, that's what I was given. And the idea of being like trans, it was like, that was just what freaks did. That's not, that was just, you know, society was just like, no, people who are trans are just like, you know, plastic surgery freaks on daytime television. Or they're crazy and they just need like good drugs or whatever.
Whatever.
I saw My So-Called Life and the gay guy got kicked out of the house. So it's like I picked up enough at like 7 or 8 that like in pop culture that if you were gay, it meant that like something was wrong with you and you got kicked out of your house. Mm-hmm. So child, I was bold. I packed up a little backpack with some essentials and it was like some underwear and stuff. But I had also like put my Furby and like my fucking copy of Spice World. Like I'm not even kidding. It's such an adorable
story. This was
story.
your gay go bag?
Mm-hmm. And I went and I told my mom I was gay and she was like, honey. She was like, well, first of all, chill out. You're
so
8.
you packed your bag because you were prepared for your family.
Because I thought I thought it was just like, I was young, I was naive. I was like, you're gay, you gotta move out when you find out you're gay. And my mom was just
That's
like,
so heartbreaking.
Isn't it? It's hysterical.
With
It's
your little
heartbreaking.
backpack next to you, like, I'm ready to go, I'm gay.
I was like, yeah, I had my Furby, I had my
And
I had
that
some
was
Beanie
like
Babies.
more important to you to be honest and
Yeah.
be prepared to
And I
leave
told my
your
mom,
family.
and my mom's response was
Crazy.
basically just like, honey, calm down, you're 8 years old, you don't need to think about this kind of thing. But it's like, that's the perfect time to start thinking about it because that's when the hormones start going and that's when people start going boyfriend, girlfriend. And, you're like, and she was like, well, here's the thing. And she shot pretty straight with it. She was like, baby, we would never kick you out. Me and your dad have known this about you since you were like a little, you know, 2-year-old. And, but she was like, people aren't really going to understand this, and I think you should wait a couple of years and kind of, like, figure out if this is, like, really, like, a thing you want to, like, lead with. I said, okay, and then I kind of didn't think about it, and she'd check in with me a little bit, and it's, like, the internet played a major role in everything, like, being able to, like, I mean, porn, it's, like, it's hard to, like, have the discussion without porn being, like, the major thing that, like, helps you, like, discover it. When I was 13, it was, like, that was the official, like, okay, the world gets to know now. You know, it's, like, when you come out, as gay, you're kind of like cemented as that forever. So it was just like loud gay man, and it's like I leaned into that forever, well into my adulthood. It wasn't until the last couple of years that I realized that what I actually was a girl, you know, and that's really tough because it's like I had never like had this like I need to get rid of all my body hair, and like I had never like had dysphoria until I had that final like realization, you know, that everything, because I'd always had
final realization.
Well, I'd had like body dysphoria, like I'd been like, oh, I'm fat, you know, oh, I'm too tall, or oh, I got back hair, or oh, my body does this when I want it to do this. With like transness, it's like there's this idea that there's this like one singular moment you realize it, but it was just like a collection of moments. It was like looking back and remembering that like I used to have a lot of anxiety and like cry because I wanted to be a little girl. I wanted to be a little girl. I wanted to have long hair. I wanted to like play with Barbie dolls. I wanted to hang out with other girls. I remember this, like, it's like you remember every incident that made you feel a certain way when you were younger, and now that you're an adult, you can, like, I remember in like might have been like second grade, I might have been that young, the coach looked at all the girls, like it was like in PE when the coach would take you out, and he looked at all the girls. He said, girls, you guys get together and you can do whatever you want. Boys, we're going to learn how to play football. And I was just like, I hate this.
Do whatever I want.
And I remember at one point saying, can I go play with the girls instead? And him getting so angry at me and yelling at me. It didn't make any sense. And I'm looking at the girls and they're all like playing follow the leader and shit and having a good time. It's like not getting to go to a slumber party because slumber parties are just for girls. Right, and like, I recently like saw the special about like little kids that are trans. And she was like, hey, so-and-so's having a slumber party. Can I go there? And the mom's like, I don't know, honey. And, you know, she says, why not? And she said, well, I don't not everybody's parents understand trans. And I was like, oh my God. It was like if my parents had had the access to those materials back in the 90s, which no one did.
Right.
I remember there was an episode of Sally Jesse or Jesse Jones where they had a 12-year-old trans girl on, and they had like shown a bunch of pictures of her like dressed up as a girl. And the mom was there, and like she had started like going through therapy and all that kind of stuff, and she was fully female presenting, and the audience was not there for it. The audience did not agree with her. The audience was like kind of cringing, and then but I remember the woman saying like, you know, we've talked to therapists, and the therapists have all said, we've gone to multiple therapists, they said this is helpful for her, this will help her in the long run feel more adjusted, and that for me. And it was like shortly after that I started going to Jasmine, and there was a trans femme presence there. Dinesha was the first trans woman I've ever met. Her name was Dinesha McCoy, and she's no longer with us, but she was very pivotal in me understanding my transness and my femness. It was just a lot of things. It was like seeing how sensitive I would be about trans issues when I was still like identifying as cis. Seeing how badly like microaggressions you get when you're a drag queen that like wouldn't have bothered me if I felt like I was a man dressing as a woman, you know what I mean? But like things like, oh, you do your makeup better than me and I'm a woman. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Or like questions like, did you do that yourself? Or like being as femme as I could ever possibly be and still having people call me man, dude, bro, him. Right. And it was just like, the fuck is this? Like, this wouldn't bother me if this wasn't something that I felt deeply. And
so being a performer, I think first and foremost, being a drag performer, being a drag performer that has features that drag queens don't generally have. Did that influence the process of you coming to the identity of a trans femme person?
Yeah, absolutely. I found that I was starting to get really annoyed at how often people would fixate on bearded drag queen. It was like they were so obsessed. It was like I would get introduced to MC at shows that I wasn't MCing, and people would have to like give the audience a disclaimer about me having a beard, like, hey, drag isn't always about looking feminine. It's like, wow, I feel great in the back with that intro.
But you are being your feminine.
Exactly. It's my like
beard is feminine.
Well, it's all the unpacking that you have to do when you when you like realize what you're saying. So there's this idea in drag, they're like, if you're not wearing heels, if you're not wearing nails, if you're not wearing pads, if you're not wearing tits, if you're not wearing hair, if you haven't done your makeup perfectly, then you're not doing drag, you're not a woman. And it's like, okay, cool, are we ever going to examine the fact that you basically just said a woman is a woman unless, you know, if a woman has flat feet and hairy arms, then she's not a woman anymore. It's like, well, what we're doing is fantasy. It's like, are we? I think this is just about like fucking performing and giving queers a job.
Yeah.
It's also giving queers a job.
Yeah, exactly.
When I come to your show, I don't see fantasy. I see authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the difference of when I go to like In Cahoots and see the pageant drag, and when I come to your show and see the performance. I mean, it's both performance and both value.
And I've talked. It's a generational thing. I've talked to some like older gay guys who love drag, and they're like, well, what it used to be is it was the fantasy of like you would go there and they wouldn't have to do much. They would just have these like super surgical bodies. Like they had gotten these like high fantasy surgery bodies, and for them it was like, wow, I just can't. And they say it like this because, and it's like I try not to hold fault to them because it's like they just didn't know. It wasn't talked about. You know, if you read Joy of Lesbian Sex, like it shows that in the time period lesbians were looked at like China, protected by a great wall of mystery. That literally is something it says in this book. But they were like, I just can't believe that's a man. Like it was literally that was the leading force of I just can't believe that's a man. And it was new. You didn't have all this media, so it was like, you know, your only exposure to that sort of thing was like there's no room for a gay guy in a strip club because they're just such like and I don't want to say a sweeping thing about strip clubs, but it's like so often it's like a toxic male environment. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you know, times change, and honestly, some of the problems that I have as a performer, as a trans performer today, are some of the problems that they had back in the 90s. It's like, you guys only really want us when we're wearing our cute, sparkly, revealing outfits, and you get a photo with us, and we're like your Barbie doll. But you're not interested at all about, like, you know, our feelings, about what we have to talk about, you know, what our favorite movie is. It's interesting. But drag definitely was the guiding hand into me discovering my transness, for sure.
I mean, we've talked about you using the word fag.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And you were very comfortable using that for a while, and then we had a conversation where you don't use it
fag
anymore.
as much anymore. I catch myself saying it because sometimes it just seems appropriate, but like it just does. But like I don't feel as comfortable saying fag. I used to say fag a lot. I used to say it a lot. For me, it was like reclaiming my time. It was like, I've had this word used against me. I'm going to use it. It's going to be mine. We're going to take away its meaning. But now it's like, girl, that's kind of not you. That's kind of not you, because fag is a masculine term. It's just like that you're like a male who is like a sissy male. And like, that's not actually how I feel. And so I realized that like, a lot of my internalized homophobia that I was like bringing to the surface by using the term fag a lot came because I was mad about being put in the wrong category. I was mad that I was just being dismissed as a gay guy, so it was like, might as well just resolve myself to being a fag, you know? I've come around, I've realized like, no, you're a girl.
When
I was 13, yeah, I was like it was gay, and I got called faggot a lot, so that's where I embraced fag.
And now you use trans femme.
Yeah, but the one step further, I don't really feel comfortable using the term, and I'm just gonna say it just for clarification's sake. I don't feel fully comfortable using the term tranny, like I used to use fag, because now I'm older and I'm like, well, that word just doesn't make me feel good. But honestly, if somebody called me a tranny, like, I get excited in that they are acknowledging that I'm part of the trans rainbow. Or like, if somebody just thinks I'm like a gay guy and they're like, oh, you're just a woman, I'm like, yes, I am. Someone the other day was like, well, you got one of those woman tempers. And I was like mad because like, wow, that's sexist. But I was also like, you damn right.
Do you have any other queer identifying family members?
I don't think I do. I have one on Hayden's side of the family, which is wild. Hayden has a cousin who is trans. And she's so fucking brave. Her name is Michaela. She was cycling through names for a minute, but she landed on Michaela. And she's been taking hormones, and she lives in Kentucky, like backwoods ass Kentucky, and she's transitioning. And it was like just seeing that someone at age 20 something felt so comfortable in themselves that they were like, no, I'm a trans woman and you will respect me. It was like, and knowing my husband's family is kind of rough and a little rednecky, and that she was like, I don't care.
Did you cycle through any names before you landed on Beatrice?
Beatrice
Bernadette Palmer.
Well, for me, it was like I didn't want people calling me my, legal name anymore. I don't know if I necessarily cycled through names. I think I just, it didn't occur to me until, like, maybe this past year that I wanted to legally change my name. And Beatrice came because everybody already called me BB. Right. So it was just like everybody called me BB. People called me BB before that was my drag name. Like that's what's nuts to me is that like, cause my first drag name was stupid. It was Bizarrica Lestrange. I don't know if anybody out there remembers Bizarrica Lestrange, but
sounds like a first drag name.
Yeah, it was like nobody could say it.
What's your drag name, Nina?
Yeah, I want to know your drag name.
It's Leon Etrange.
We need to get this one on Glitter Bomb.
Oh yeah. It was like, but like nobody was like really being like, hey Bizarrica. They were like, oh hey BB. And it was like my friends called me BB because I had a baby face forever, and so it was like, so I was tired of calling myself Bizarrica because it didn't seem like the kind of thing that somebody who took their career seriously would call themselves. So I rebranded it and I was like, okay, I'm BB, and my drag mom's last name is Deluxe, so it was like BB Deluxe. So everybody called me BB, and like, it was like when I went to beauty school, everybody was still calling me my dead name, and there was no way I could really explain to them, call me this like 60-year-old woman's name. Yeah. And like at work they were still calling me that, but like all my friends and the people closest to me and the people I met at the bar, I had created a divide. It was like, you didn't get to know my legal name. That was it. It was done. And then I realized, like, I knew the problem was that someone said to me, someone close to me, it's like people say this to me a lot that aren't close to me, but it was when someone really close to me said to me, and it was just because I hadn't been clear about it. They were like, well, I know the real you. I know dead name. And I was just like, that's not the real me. Yeah. And I had that realization. It was a good friend of mine said, my dead name's not Andrew, but just for all intents and purposes, I'll say it is. They were like, well, everybody knows BB, but I know Andrew. And it was someone really close to me, and I was just like, no, that's not it. That's not what I want. And so, so it was just kind of like, I love B. Arthur. I think that she had wonderful contributions to queerness, and the term ally gets thrown around a lot, and it's not one of my favorite terms because I think it's just being a decent human. I don't think you guys need to label that.
No. Yeah, just be nice.
Just be nice. Because I don't use it to describe any other kind of demographic that I don't fit in. As a white lady, I don't, I'm not calling myself an ally for all the other stuff. I just try to not engage in microaggressions that I know are microaggressions. Right. But, and not get pissed off when somebody calls you on them. Okay, guys, I'm talking to you.
So, like, in your music career and in drag, has your orientation affected your creative endeavors?
Yeah, deeply. It was like, yeah, big time. That's actually a huge thing. I wanted to say, the moment I knew that my name was Beatrice Bernadette, because I had been tossing around the name Beatrice, and I had also been I've been like, oh, well, I want the middle name to be a B-E name, and
cute.
Me and my friend, Beatrice Bernadette, and me and my friend had always jokingly called each other Bernadette. And we had done, we were like, Bernadette. It was just like back in the day, like it was like an old lady name we thought was funny. And then we did a Priscilla Queen of the Desert themed show. I don't know if you guys got to see that one.
I think I saw the highlights in the end of the year.
And the trans woman in that, her name is Bernadette. Her name is Bernadette. And I was just like, oh, wow. And that was a moment where I was like really watching a lot of Priscilla Queen of the Desert because we were doing a show based off of it. And so I was like, okay, Beatrice Bernadette. And, I looked up the name meanings of both, and I just started hysterically sobbing because Beatrice means bringer of laughter, comedy. Aww. And Bernadette means brave like a bear. Oh. So it was just like, it was like a full, like, I was supposed to have this name.
Wow. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. Wow. I was supposed to have that name. And, like, on my wedding cake topper, we had, like, we had a porcelain hare and a bear because my husband's the hare and I'm the bear. because he's a little bit smaller than me, and so it was one of those like this was supposed to happen in this moment, and I'm not super huge into astrology, which is not like which is not a valid queer opinion, but
maybe when we do our astrology series, we should also interview people who are not into astrology.
Yeah, it's a big thing I feel like I miss because it's so
I love it. I get
pivotal
it.
to the queer
cute
experience.
Cool, but I can't. I'm not.
But
yeah, when I go off on my rants, you're like,
The return of Saturn, though, I do think whatever the return of Saturn is, if it's the planets or if it's just that we live in these like 7-year increments of growth and development, it was like finding out my name was Beatrice Bernadette was like, and we're closing the return of Saturn. It was like that was like the end. Saturn returned it, and she went back where she came from. So I just wanted to elaborate on that before we went to the next question. Sorry.
I mean, that kind of feeds into it. Yeah. Your identity as...
Yeah. So my artistic endeavors definitely did change. A big part of it, like, if you talked to me a year ago today, my number one laser focus was getting on RuPaul's Drag Race. That was it. I auditioned for RuPaul's Drag Race 2 years in a row, and like the whole process was just like not great for my mental health because it's like you work your ass off to make this tape, and then you just like hear nothing. Just nothing. And that was my focus. I was like, the only way I can find any kind of success in the field I want to be in is if I get on this show and stay for long enough to like maintain a career out of it. And so it was like my drag wardrobe reflected that. The kind of drag I did reflected that. It was like I was doing, and if you look back at my drag at last year or the year before, it was like super saturated colors. It was like I wanted to look like a Fraggle. I wanted to look like a Muppet. It was like I was wearing pads. It was like it was cool. It was cool as shit. I don't feel bad about it, but it was like you can tell by looking at it, I was still viewing it like a costume. Right. I was still like, let me make sure I post a photo of me dressed up as a boy because that'll get me more notes. And it was like, and that was not making me happy.
Why would that get you more?
Because thirst gets you notes. People want so like the gay experience is so highlighted by look at this man I want to have sex with, and I've always been like a sexual person, but it was like they want to, that's why Transformation Tuesday, you see all these girls having a picture of like a good looking dude next to a picture of like a good looking female, because it's like they want to advertise you this like, like, yes, I can be this feminine ideal that you don't have sex with, but I could also be this like very good looking dude that you can have sex with. Or I'm this fun looking gay guy that's like fun and friendly and warm, and when I'm a woman you want to fuck me. You know what I mean? And
covers
it's like,
all bases.
It's always about, am I sexually attractive enough to?
What are 2 things you know about yourself that you don't need any reinforcement?
Oh, wow. I need to create everything that's connected.
What are the 2 most
dangerous emotions?
Holy shit. Envy, like, kind of runs my life sometimes. I compare myself to other people who are more successful than me, and I think I don't know what the actual word is for it, but feeling sorry for yourself, which is tough for me because I've spent so much of my career being self-deprecating in my comedy. I was just going to
say, part of what's really hilarious about a lot of your set is
that. Which I'm okay with. I take some power in that, and it's like understanding that it is a joke, and like I think part of my self-deprecating humor is acknowledging that voice that's saying that shit anyway and making fun of it. It's kind of like how when I was a kid just saying fag. It was like, the chemical imbalance, the brain problems is just like, everyone hates you and you're taxing to everybody. And just saying that. Just being like, I'm a toxic narcissist. And people laugh. They're like, okay, cool, they laugh.
I mean, fire is dangerous. It can burn you or warm you.
Do you have a SoundCloud?
What is the most profound queer experience? Was it like provided or created, and how did you feel in that space?
It's been a collection of them. I think I would be nowhere without the involvement of Jasmine with me. For those that don't know, Jasmine is the Jacksonville Area Sexual Minority Youth Network, which is not a problematic acronym. It's held up. Sexual minority. It's like it was like Girl Scouts for me because back in the 90s and the early 2000s, Girl Scouts has always been very progressive, but they had yet to like really open the doors for gender non-conforming individuals, and Boy Scouts had a very like no gays. So it was like I had a friend who like wouldn't come out until they graduated high school because they didn't want to lose Eagle Scout.
Wow.
And they went to Paxton too. I don't guess who they were.
Ah.
But I think my involvement in Jasmine gave me a lot of the tools to like deconstruct social construct, and it was teaching me things about internalized misogyny and internalized homophobia and mass generalizations, and you know the kind of barriers they put in the government so we don't know things. It's like I was taught all of that very early. So I think that going to Jasmine and being a Jasmine youth, they flew me out to this activism camp that Rosa Parks had gone to when she was young.
Oh wow. Huh.
Yeah, it was that gave me the tools, and they are celebrating their 25th anniversary soon. They're old enough to rent a car. Glitter bomb, doing glitter bomb was a big part of my, because I had always done drag shows and I had produced it and I had like drag family, but it was like glitter bomb was a moment where I got to actually curate a group of people who respected each other and encouraged each other and didn't, you know, do a bunch of crazy stuff.
What did you think sex was before you had sex?
What's a funny way of talking about trauma? I just before I knew what sex was, what did I think? I don't remember a time before I knew what sex was. I think due to the internet and the show Oz and I grew up in a comedy club, so it was like, I don't remember a time before I knew what sex was because I read a book at the library.
Before you had sex.
Before I had sex. I mean, I just
what did you think it would be like?
I knew that like it, you know, makes your junk feel good. I just I was pretty. My parents were pretty straightforward. Like I found a book at the library that was like "Mommy laid an egg," and I was like, "Oh, that sounds funny," but it was just basically like kids' drawings of like how you have sex, and I was like, "Okay, T."
I'm gonna need to find that book at the library.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
You should get that for the library.
Mommy laid an egg.
You can request at the library, by the way.
It's like here's a penis, here's a vagina. The penis goes in the vagina. Sperm comes out of the penis. It was pretty straightforward, but it had like fun drawings, and it like had different drawings of how like the kids think they had sex. And I remember one specifically was like them holding balloons and having sex like in the air. It was very strange.
That sounds fun.
It was very strange, and like they probably pulled it since. I don't know. I mean, I lost my virginity when I was like 12, so it was like there wasn't like too much time for me to think about what sex was or wasn't, and like. I was, we had the internet in our house, and, you know, the thing about this, like, Google generation, this millennial generation that I'm in, you know, we grew up knowing more about technology than our parents. So, like, I don't know, I wish I had a fun answer about that, like.
No, it's a good answer.
Yeah.
I kind of already had it all figured out pretty early, and maybe that's fucked up. I don't know.
Yeah, it's your reality.
Yeah.
Who should we interview next?
Ooh, I would love it if you guys interviewed Moxie Mop, who's a drag queen in my show. Hayden Palmer, my husband. Not just because he's my husband. He has some wonderful things to say. Y'all already interviewed Giella. And, I mean, Izzy Amon, because the girl likes to talk.
We're coming for you, Izzy.
She'll say my name too many damn times in the interview. That's who I think you should interview.
Cool. Beatrice. I like you.
Aratrice, I like you.
Nina, I like you.
Alright, I like you.
Nina Triss, I like you.
Baby, I like you.
Thank you. I like y'all.
And we like you.
I like you.